So this is a first impressions video, so that means my impressions for the first few days that I have had this device. I like to see how the device experience is right out of the box, so that you, the user, know what to expect when you get one of these. I haven't installed anything additional on this device, no extra games, emulators, or custom firmware. I actually wanted to get this video out a few days ago, but life happened, which actually I think worked out in my favor because I was able to test out the battery life and get this device in different situations that I normally wouldn't get in a first impressions video. Wow, is this thing tiny. It's so tiny and cute and just wow. So the box that it comes in is about the size of a deck of cards, just to give you an idea. And the build quality, you can see it seems pretty good. So obviously we'll test that out when we go to game on it. But it's all metal. The shell is all metal and it's really, really nice. It feels really nice. So let's do some comparisons with some of the other handhelds that I have. Here's my Mio Mini Plus, and yes, this is the Plus version, but oh my goodness, it's just so tiny. Again, that's what I'm gonna say in this entire video. It's just tiny. It makes the Mio Mini Plus look like you're using, I don't know, an Odin 2 or a Steam Deck in comparison. It's just almost ridiculous. The screen is a little, I don't know, it's not as great as the Mio Mini Plus screen. On the side, there's some lights that show up when you charge it, and to give you an idea of how much battery life is left, you can see it's not very thick. It's about the size of, about the thickness of the Mio Mini. And I just had this next to my desk, but here's the 8-bit Do 2 controller. And you could fit, what, 3, 4, 5 of these into the size of that controller. Here is one of my hard drives. This is just your standard Toshiba hard drive, external hard drive. And I mean, it's way smaller. It's so tiny. And just because I have one, Pixel is actually about the size of this, whatever the tiger, panda, chicken, handheld thing you want to call this, whatever version you end up getting. The screen's a little bit bigger. Here is the Anbernic 35XXH. You can see here's the screen. It's so tiny. Little tiny micro handheld. Here is the Powkiddy RGB 30 next to it. You can see that ginormous screen obviously dwarfs the Pixel screen. And Cuphead, because everybody has a Cuphead, right? Just to give you an idea, it's about the size of, it's a little bit bigger than some figurine that you'd have for a keychain if you pick something up like that. And a screwdriver, just because I had it here on my desk. Just to give you an idea, because I know we can throw up measurements, but until you, like I said before, until you get this thing in your hand, it's just so tiny. And not that I'm trying to make this just a comparisons video between different handhelds, but here is the original Mio Mini right next to it. So just to give you an idea, if you do have a Mio Mini, this is probably the closest thing to it. I don't have an Anbernic RG Nano to compare it to. Now you can definitely see that the screen is just a little bit different on the Pixel. The Mio Mini has an IPS screen, and from what I'm seeing, I don't think that the screen on the Pixel is as awesome. So we'll just go right to the Go Game Geek website. If you couldn't tell, Go Game Geek sent me this device for a review. All opinions are my own and they don't see this video before it's been published. You can see that the Pixel is in different colors. They're all pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to that purple. I'd like to see that one. Those green buttons are pretty neat. And you can see that right now it is going for $89.99. There is also a code. I'll have the link below with a code where you can get 10% off. Now here we'll scroll down to the stats, and you can see it doesn't say that there's anything about an HD or IPS screen or anything like that. So it's just a screen, and it's not a great screen, but it's a screen nonetheless. So here is the stock firmware. You can see that when you boot up the GKD Pixel, this is what it looks like right out of the box. I'm not a huge fan of the stock firmware. I actually had a little bit of an issue with going into the first portion, which is emulators. Some of the games wouldn't work right away. I'm not really sure why. I tested it out over the course of a few days, and all of a sudden, some of the games were actually working in the emulator section. I don't really know why. Since the device seems to be cooperating a little bit better, let's go ahead and play some games. Let's start out with some Tetris. So I feel like anybody that's a huge fan of Game Boy or Game Boy Color might actually enjoy this, especially if you're not bothered by the little tiny screen and you really want something super crazy portable, then I think the Pixel would be good for you. So here's something that I wanted to have you listen to. Gunstar Heroes is terribly audio crackling and laggy. I was in the Pico Drive, Mega Drive emulator. Now I'm going to go into a different emulator and I won't have any issues, which is super bizarre. That was the only time that I ran into that, but in case you have that same experience, just see if you can try to use a different core, if there is another core possibly available. I don't understand why Mega Drive of all systems was having issues. The D-pad and the buttons, despite being a little smaller than normal, seem okay. They are definitely usable. I have occasionally felt the D-pad scrape on the sides, but it didn't get stuck and still worked. This thing is super tiny. So when I heard that I was getting this device for a review, I was super excited. I'm a huge fan of the Miyoo Mini Plus and the Miyoo Mini series and just smaller devices. I like something that's pocketable. What I was super excited about in the situation, the use case that I was going to use it for, is I will wait in line at my kids' school so I can pick them up. And in that time, I might have 10, 15, 20 minutes to just sit there and stare out the window. Why would you stare out the window? You can game. Why not? So, but this thing is a little bizarre. I like it and I don't. I want to like it a little bit more than I do. And I think that has to do with the stock firmware that's on here. It seems to be just not very user-friendly, not very intuitive. It's just kind of clunky. The way that it's set up, you have, at least for me, the experience that I had to end up going into RetroArch and go in there, open up whatever system that I wanted to go through, and then go into those games. It has emulators right there in the beginning, as you'll see on the screen. But for whatever reason, I couldn't get the emulators to really work almost any of the time. Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and it just wasn't working. I ended up having to go into RetroArch. So I know that there is custom firmware out there. I'm planning on, when I do my review, I am planning on showing that and showing what we can do with this device. I'm a huge fan of custom firmware when, the interface isn't the greatest. Also, I like options. You should like options too. I know that a lot of people are against custom firmware because they want to use it as is, but what if that custom firmware lets you use different systems? Lets you possibly use different games that you, or out of those systems, higher end game, it brings up performance mode, things like that. We've typically seen that. So again, if you're a frequent viewer of my channel, you definitely know that I am a big fan of custom firmware. It's just fun to see what the community can come up with. So the hardware is good. I like the buttons. It's not bad. What's a little strange, and I like this and I don't. It's like a little love-hate relationship with this. You can see, I'll show a close-up shot of this, but you can see that in the little slot where they put the micro SD card, the cool thing is they have a little notch so that you can get your finger in there, which I think is huge. I don't know if I can remember a device that's actually had that. So that's definitely a user-friendly aspect of this device. However, in that corner, there is a tiny sharp corner that just keeps hitting part of my hand or my fingers on my left hand, the way that I'm holding it. And maybe it's just me. It's a tiny thing, but I want that to stop doing that. So I don't want, because it's a metal device, I don't want to get a file out and start just trying to makeshift it. But that's a tiny little thing. The other thing that I am not a big fan of, and right now you can see this is not on. I went to grab this, I got my camera all set up, I got everything all set up, and I thought I actually powered it off. There is no sleep function on this device with the stock firmware. I know that in the custom firmware that I'm going to be using, I believe it's Min UI, there is a sleep function. They have fixed that. So that will definitely greatly improve this device quite a bit, because it's annoying. I had around 40%, maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure what had happened, but it just died. It's a little finicky as far as the charging cables that you have to use. The only one that I have access to at this moment in time is a supercharged USB, and a lot of devices don't use that. My phone uses that, so that's what I have access to, and I can't charge it, so I will get that charged. I do love the way that the side is with the lights, with the battery charging lights. That's a cool feature. I really like that. That definitely helps indicate whether or not it's charged, whether it's charging. So if you need to charge it, I like that. However, I don't like that you can't turn that off, because I was playing it in bed the other night and it was kind of glaring all around, like my lights in the back. And so definitely, you're going to wake up your significant other. I thought I was going to wake up mine, and no. So, but you can just hold it. So, but anyway, overall, I think it's pretty cool. I'm excited to show this off a little bit more once I've had a little bit more time with it. Right now, I've only played a few games. If you, and this is maybe just me, but if you wear glasses, if you don't like small things, this is probably not going to be good for you. Or you can only play it in very tiny time increments, because this is just, it's very tiny. So screen is just tiny. It makes the Miu Mini Plus look like a gigantic device, just a huge device. Here it is. Look at that. I know I showed it in a different spot, but huge, just giant. And I throw this in a sweatshirt pocket, a jacket pocket, pants sometimes. I always grab this, and it's always kept me. I throw it in a backpack, whatnot, because this is my go-to. It's only for a few minutes at a time. That's what I wanted this to do, but I can't do that if it doesn't have a sleep function. So anyway, those are my thoughts, not yours. So let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are with the GKD Pixel, and look forward to the full review that I'll have. And like I said, I'm going to put some custom firmware on here and see how that rolls, and hopefully that will greatly improve life for this, or at least my user experience for this device, and hopefully yours. As always, please be sure to like, subscribe, share this video. Someone that really, really loves tiny, tiny handhelds, something that's way smaller than your face, and stick around for the next one. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome, everyone, and go play some games.
Hey, who was that? Why do we have a face in our video? Who was that?